This is the place where heroes dwell, where glorious achievements are noted for all time, where the memories of treasured moments are never allowed to fade away. It's a place where legends are honored and their legendary feats told and retold in vivid detail, where greatness is revealed in the flickering light of game film. This is a place for warriors, for the people who do, who lay their blood and sweat and hearts on the line to leap higher, run faster, stretch further, who give everything they possibly have to give and then impossibly pick themselves up off the field and find a way to give again. The individuals whose physical grace and power and speed and endurance and agility amaze and challenge us. The people who, through their personal dedication, remind us of what the human body and spirit are capable of accomplishing. Here are the heroes who teach, the people who guide and cajole, who inspire and challenge, who help us explore the very best parts of ourselves, the ones we never knew existed. When our bodies and minds are screaming stop, they show us how to focus on the gain and not the pain. They set impossible goals and then give the tools and the motivation to actually achieve them. They're the heroes who teach us that the only way to fail is not to try, and who show us that digging deeper is the one sure way of reaching higher. Here are the heroes who level the playing field, the arbiters and mediators. These are the guardians of fairness, the people to whom we entrust the integrity of the game, the men and women who are expected to have the mind of an encyclopedia, the stamina of the best athlete on the field, and the superhuman sense to always be in precisely the right place at the right moment to make the right call. Theirs is a world observed in a blur, where judgment calls come in 100 shades of gray. But, like the clearly defined lines of the shirts on their back, they can only choose between black and white, and do it in an instant. They're the heroes who only know they've done their job well when no one notices them. And here are the heroes who contribute off the gyms and fields of dreams, the people in the background who embrace high school sports and step forward to make a deep personal commitment to them. What they give can't be measured in periods or halves or two-a-days. It's a 24-hour day, 7 days a week dedication that more often than not passes unrecognized and underappreciated. Instead of glove and bat, they often wield a pen or a calculator. They're budget balancers and arm twisters, movers and shakers. The people who share the story but never the glory. The people who find the resources to get things done. And above all, they are the visionaries, the heroes who make the present possible and the future assured. Tonight, this place of heroes welcomes its newest generation. We're here to recognize and honor those individuals who exemplify all of the very best that is represented in high school sports. We honor the warriors, the teachers, the judges, the givers, all of the people who dedicate their precious time and energy and skills to high school sports. Tonight, we salute the 2006 class of the Alberta High School Sports Hall of Fame. special achievement. Prior to 1956, educators involved in sports and physical education had ongoing discussions about the possible creation of a high school athletic association in Alberta. In March 1956, a meeting of educators was held in conjunction with a boys' basketball tournament scheduled in Calgary. As a result of this meeting, the ASAA was created, and that basketball tournament became the first ASAA championship. The attendees at that first meeting are recognized as the founders of the ASAA, an association formed to ensure school sport takes place in a well-organized educational environment and in a spirit that promotes equal opportunity and good sportsmanship. The ASAA has grown to encompass 350 member schools and over 30,000 student athletes annually. The vision of the founders has been the cornerstone of the growth of the association over the past 50 years and will continue to shape the development of the association in the future. The first ASAA competition was in boys basketball, a championship held in Calgary and involving teams from Victoria Composite High School in Edmonton, Crescent Heights in Calgary, Raymond High School, and Lethbridge Collegiate Institute. Victoria Composite emerged as champions with a semi-final victory over Raymond and a 54-43 win over Crescent Heights in the final. Victoria Composite High School carries the distinction of being the first ASAA champion team. The players on this team, and coaches Don McIntosh and Jack Allen, as well as those of the other three teams competing in the inaugural championship, would later be recognized as pioneers of the Alberta Schools Athletic Association, helping to found what has become an association that hosts 29 championships in 11 sports annually.
We knew we were going down to Calgary to play in the provincial championships, and that was exciting in itself. But to us, it was more just another basketball. We were going down to play, and until we got there, and we walked in the gymnasium, and the crowds were unreal. It was just we experienced it in our final, where we had the big crowds, but we'd never had crowd. This was the new gymnasium at Crescent Heights, and we were actually all boarded in their old gymnasium. We slept right there at the gymnasium there. In their old gymnasium, they'd set up beds, and it worked well, and we had no problems. The teams got along, and we were all bunked in there, and we went. So from that beginning, it's come to what it is last year, which was amazing. 2,500 people in the gymnasium last year.
To be on the first championship team was a bit of a outstanding time in my life. We only get these moments in the sun once in a while, and that was our moment as far as basketball team was concerned. It was outstanding. We were just so pleased, and so many memories from that period of time.
It just seemed the players went from basketball to football to hockey or whatever it was. They just seemed to be a good group of athletes who were well trained, and whatever sport they were in, they did well.
Being inducted into the Hall of Fame, the High School Hall of Fame, is such an honor. It is something I just can't put into words. I know that all of our team members will be just feeling on top of the world.
We never knew it would come to what it has today, but it was exciting, and like I say, we had a great captain and a very good center in Joe Bedford and Don Moreau as our captain, and they sparked us really, and it was good, great time, really.
officials. Roger Takoka, a lifetime basketball official and a student of the game, began his officiating career in the late 1940s as a student at Western Canada High School. He progressed from officiating the girls' inter-school program at Western to working games for the Calgary Senior High Schools Athletic Association. Over a 35-year span, Roger went on to officiate many high school games, ASAA provincial championship games, and post-secondary matchups. Roger was selected as one of the officials for the inaugural ASAA Provincial Basketball Championship game in 1956. Roger served 2 terms as president of the Alberta Basketball Officials Association and was on the executive committee of Basketball Alberta. He has been recognized for his dedication to the sport with awards from the Calgary Booster Club, Canadian Basketball Officials Association, and Basketball Canada.
First got into officiating at Western Canada High School. In those days, there was only 3 high schools in Calgary, and they didn't appoint officials for the girls' games. So I was doing a little bit of officiating at noon hours, and so I was volunteered to be an official for the inter-school games. So that's how I first got into it. Like, my mentors were all good to me. They taught me a lot about floor positioning and signaling and how to try and keep the tempo of the game at a proper level and not let things get out of any disorders or any disputes. And so I learned a lot from them. When I first came to work at Western Canada High School, well, I'd only been out of the school a couple of years and everybody knew me, So, and the opposing coach would say, well, what's going on here? Here's Takoka. He's been around Western athletics for 4 years and now they're bringing him in to do this key game. I always try to tell officials after that you shouldn't be going to your own high school in the first few years until they've forgotten that you attended there, And so in my appointing, when I used to be commissioner, I used to look and see where they came from and tried not to put them in their high school or where they went to school at. Like, I know I did do the first game, the first high school championship game, and that's probably has a lot to do with it, but there's a lot of, I remember the people that were before me and I try to accept the fact that I'm representing them and all the other people that got me to this point.
Dr. Herb McLaughlin was an early advocate of officiating and began training officials in 1948. He was a founder of both the Edmonton and Alberta Basketball Officials Officiating and began training officials in 1948. He was a founder of both the Edmonton and Alberta Basketball Officials Association and has served as president of that association and the Canadian Basketball Officials Association. Herb and his colleagues recruited young officials and trained and mentored them over several decades. He was clearly a driving force in the development of the quality officiating we see in basketball today. He believed that providing well-trained officials helped further the ideals of good, fair competition. Dr. McLaughlin was one of the officials for the ASAA's inaugural basketball championship in 1956. He has been Dean of the Faculty of Physical Education and Recreation at the U of A CFL statistician from 1953 to the present, and has volunteered in several other capacities. Over the years, he has been recognized with many awards, including the University of Alberta Sports Wall of Fame and the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal.
I had excellent preparation in physical education at McGill University from 2 or 3 people who I really respected. And I found that it was very easy to be out there and trying to be fair. And after a game, You didn't, unless somebody came up to you and talked about it, you really didn't recall very often. I can recall 2 or 3 incidents which I enjoyed doing, but not whether it was this game meant more to me than another game. I would tell these young people that it's an association and it's a game that you're not going to rise to the top by just being casual. What you should do is study and practice and welcome the opportunity to participate as an official under the guidance of someone who's been there before, as we usually call a senior official. And so, as a senior official, we thoroughly enjoyed the young ones who are coming up, and their attitude is one thing we always worked on. Attitude that you wanted to be fair and square. Being in physical education at the University of Alberta, and was early, right after World War II, it was kind of it impinges upon us to look after this and let's promote something. And we were well known to the other members of the association which we were going to form in the word that they were the supervisors of physical education throughout the province. You can name Lethbridge, Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton. We pretty well knew everyone. We were like a family. And it was not difficult to form, but we wanted to make sure that it was in place and in proper place. And I think that we all looking forward to the day that everyone who was involved with high school athletics would become members of the association, because it was the one that encompassed all boards of education throughout the province. So it was a very pleasing thing.
Coaches. Jim Whitelaw was an integral part of high school sports in Lethbridge from the 1940s through the 1970s. He spent almost 30 years coaching basketball and football at Lethbridge Collegiate Institute. Jim was a lifelong student of both games, and he passed his passion for and knowledge of those sports to his teams. He coached in 13 ASAA provincial basketball championships, winning 5 in total, with his first victory in 1957 and his last in 1979. His football teams benefited from his coaching skill and enthusiasm as well, winning 19 league championships. Jim was a strong advocate of football becoming an ASAA-sanctioned sport, something that occurred a few years after his retirement. Jim has spent his career serving the young people of Lethbridge and Alberta, and he has been honored by the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame and as a recipient of the ASAA's Robert H. Routledge Award.
Really enjoyed.
Something that occurred a few years after his retirement. Jim has spent his career serving the young people of Lethbridge and Alberta, and he has been honored by the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame and as a recipient of the ASAA's Robert H. Routledge Award.
Really enjoyed my job. I thought working with the boys and girls at the Lethbridge Collegiate was just exactly what I wanted to do in life. It made me very happy. Every day I woke up in the morning, I never said, oh, I don't feel like getting up and going to school today. I look forward to it. I love body contact in football, and I put on 2 pair of shoulder pads, and they were felt. So the boys only had 1 pair. I had 2 pair on. And I ended up with sore shoulders. I went home to my wife and I said, I will never ever get after the boys about their tackling. We got to go and get some new equipment. And I promptly went to Ashdown's, which was a wholesale place, and got a hold of 5 shoulder pads for $100. And I got called in by Mr. A.J. Watson, who was an excellent person, And he said, Jim, you can't do that. You've got to get a requisition first. And I was always doing things like that. And he had confidence in me that I wouldn't go overboard. And I was called into his office a number of times, but he was understood. We had a team in the 1958 team. They were an excellent team, but they couldn't hit foul shots. And we tried every technique that I was aware of. Then I tried one where you blindfold the player and he shoots the ball at the foul line, and you just tell him whether he's short or long or left or right. You put the ball in his hand, and it's a kinesthetic feel that they're trying to develop. It worked a little bit, not much. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame means to me that maybe I carried out a bunch of the wishes that my parents had of being a hard worker and honest and being a good sport. I always tried, when we lost, I always tried to have a smile on my face. I never ever tried saying, if we hadn't done this and this and this, we would have beat you. I always accepted and tried to give the winner his true, just rewards.
Marge Clark was an early leader in school sports in southern Alberta, working as the first district specialist in physical education at Lethbridge Collegiate Institute. Marge was instrumental in heightening the awareness of the importance and value of school athletics for girls, and successfully lobbied for girls basketball to be included as an ASAA sanctioned activity. Marge coached girls basketball at LCI from 1954 to 1967, capturing 3 provincial championship titles along the way, with back-to-back championships in 1963 and 1964. She's received several local accolades, including JC's Citizen of the Year and induction into the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame, and was applauded by former players as one of the best coaches in the province.
It was very important to me for girls to participate because I thought it was very important for the equality. And for a long time, it had been more emphasis on boys' athletics than girls' athletics. And so it was important to push and finally get recognition for girls at the same level as boys. You need to keep athletics in proportion with academics, because school is a place of both. And so I think it's very important that students are not exploited, and so they have, certain things that they have to accomplish before they can partake in athletics. And because people who are teachers are controlling it, then I think they have the interests of the kids in mind. Commend the Alberta Schools Athletic Association for the tremendous progress they have made in 50 years. When you think of all the sports that they now look after, and it's the quality for girls has improved tremendously since the 1950s.
Administrators. Lorne Wood had a long teaching career at St. Albert High School, coaching most sports there, as well as being actively involved in yearbook, drama, and school government. Hired as the first executive director of the ASAA in 1975, Lorne led the ASAA for 15 years, and was instrumental in the growth of the association through new initiatives and an increase in the number of ASAA sanctioned sports. In addition to using his dedication and superb organizational skills to set the ASAA on a solid path, Lorne was largely responsible for negotiating with the provincial government to secure funding support for school sports. Lorne was always very involved in sports administration, serving the ASAA zones and provincial executive committee prior to becoming executive director. He was also a dedicated volunteer, giving his time to everything from community sports to the Commonwealth Games. He was a gift to his community and to school sports in Alberta.
Oh, Dad was really active in sport as a participant and coach, teacher, everything. He and Mom played badminton all the time. I mean, as a high schooler, he curled, was on championship curling team, and played tennis. And later in life, he started swimming after his hip replacement and riding the bike because it was easier on the joints. But yeah, he was always really involved in sport. I believe they created the position for him and asked him to be the first executive director. And so I think he did that for about 11 years. He was a high school teacher before that, high school phys ed teacher and vice principal at one point. But he thought that would be a great opportunity, and so he took that on and did a good job at it. Oh yeah, he really liked the job, really liked it. Yeah, and it was funny because, well, at first when he was a teacher, I didn't realize that everybody's dad didn't get Christmas and summers off, and it was quite a while before I realized that, and so that was nice to have him around a lot. And then, I mean, with the ASAA, he worked in the summers, but it wasn't it wasn't like he was working till 9 at night or anything, so we had good summers too. When we were little kids, my brother and I, and it was Halloween night, and she was left at home with the 2 kids and 300 kids coming to the door because Dad had some badminton commitment or something like this to go to. So yeah, he was always off doing sports, and the tennis club they were really big into, and with ASAA, the meetings, the bi-monthly meetings and things like that. I would describe my dad as fun-loving, hard-working, but good at playing as well. He liked to work hard, but he liked to play hard as well. And he was well-respected and well-loved by friends and coworkers, and he was just a really good guy.
John Mayall is a true pioneer in the world of high school sports, not only in Calgary, but also within the Alberta Schools Athletic Association and the Canadian School Sports Federation. He joined the staff of the Calgary School Board in 1940, coached several successful athletic teams, and in 1953 was promoted to Supervisor of Physical Education and Director of Athletics, a position he held for 25 years. John designed and carried out one of the most advanced and effective programs available in Canada at the time. John Mayall was a founding father of the ASAA, acting as secretary to the first meeting, and he went on to become the association's second president and an active board member. John Mayall was a founding father of the ASAA, acting as secretary to the first meeting, and he went on to become the association's second president and an active board member for over 2 decades, a role in which he excelled. John helped put in place the policy cornerstones that make the ASAA what it is today.
Well, I guess the greatest highlight is when you're unemployed. The first highlight you get is a job teaching. And I got a job at a one-room rural school near Louisiana, Alberta. It was a rural school. I was paid $875 a year, and I had 11 students and 9 grades, and I was 18 years old with 6 months of training. Well, that was an experience. My good fortune was that my boarding house, Mr. and Mrs. Abe Dahl, thought I was wonderful, and I was so good, and being the school teacher, I got all one side of the table to myself when we ate, because I was the teacher. Nobody could sit beside the teacher. That was a calamity. I wasn't that kind of a person. I wanted them to sit beside me so I felt like family. So I got that done. And I was in that school for 2 years. Our son was born. I went overseas as a navigator, pilot officer. When I left, their son was 4 months old. When I came back, he's 4 years old. And I had decided that when I got back, Helen and I would determine where we would go, what we would do. And she had done a marvelous job with our son all the time I was away. So we sat down and talked, and I said, I'd like to become a doctor, Helen, and use my veterans rehab to become a doctor. So she agreed. So I went to the University of Alberta and applied, and they didn't accept me. And the reason was I was too old. I was 29. So then we sat down and reviewed our decision, and I decided that I would carry on and I'd move into physical education, which was really new then. There wasn't any in the province. I had a real good team, 2 years, a brand new kid, I was. We won city championships, and there wasn't a provincial. But my principal, Frank Woodman, encouraged me to get games out of town. From my point of view, the purpose was the same as it was to run in the city of Calgary. This was the opportunity to have a great relation amongst your fellow students across the province. And you got into an association where you could play, and at the end you could talk and associate and have the pleasure of being a part of guys that you met suddenly. And that's all the part of building the right relationship about young people, men and women, in the way of living, an appreciation of others, and being kind and understanding after you play hard. It's a great honor. It's something I never dreamt about happening. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about the fact that I was there at the beginning, and I'm more excited the fact that it has survived and it's grown so extensively. The only thing that makes me mad about it all is that from the point of view of the press, the radio, and the TV, this tremendous program in the province doesn't get the publicity that it really deserves.